Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni. Good morning, Mr. Ifeni.
Good morning, Victoria Tundu Abiola.
Morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Lawan. Insiders connived with terrorists to attack Kuje Prisons. Says development symptomatic of security failure. We have mobilized all security apparatuses after attackers. Federal government declares. Yes, the Senate president led a delegation from the Senate to visit the scene of that attack, the Kuje Correctional Center, where ISWAP claimed responsibility for what they did 2 nights ago, to the surprise of many Nigerians. But the federal government, and I just like to read this out. Of course, Senator Dr. Lawan also added that importantly, the incident spoke volume about the failure of the country's security architecture. Yes, that word, architecture. But the federal government has said it has mobilized all the nation's security apparatuses to go after the attackers and fleeing escapees, ordering immediate activation of checkpoints across the country in search of them. I thought it would have been easier to mobilize as much security to protect that facility than what we are doing now after the horse has bolted out of the stable. But the federal government has to do something. I can remember a number of times the Senate invited security chiefs over deteriorating security situation in the country. And all the while, assurances given, something will be done. But this to happen, of course, is one that the nation will continue to ponder about how this happened so close to the seat of government. Now, the Nation newspaper reported this story, Kuje attack, Senate shocked by no CCTV. Porous security, you were asking that question. Rufa, you were asking that question the other day. Undume urges sanctions for those who failed in their duties. Prison not designed to resist external attacks, says Minister. Buhari summons emergency security meeting. Yes, we've had security meetings over time. And if we cannot anticipate a situation like this in that kind of in past security meetings, then we have a big problem in our hands. Now, the Punch newspaper also reporting this story. Kuje prison invasion. Interpol gets fleeing inmates. Data. Border security heightened. 4,300 inmates on the run after 18 jailbreaks. Now, Lawan laments ISWAP recruiting 5,000 fighters, says report. Falana blames federal government. Yes, we've had jailbreaks, although this is just like the height of it all because of the proximity to the seat of government and the fact that there was intelligence that this was going to happen. There was information that these Boko Haram, ISWAP, call them whatever name, terrorists, have been very close to this Federal Capital Territory. When the Niger State governor raised the alarm that territories are being occupied by these people, nothing was done. Perhaps I stand to be corrected, to flush them out of that locality. And here we are. Now, we've had jailbreaks, 18 in recent memory. Well, the Minister of Internal Affairs, certain Ogbeni, yeah, that's his title, Rauf Aregbesola, well, in some other claims, he too will have thrown in the towel like Boris Johnson.
Yes.
Yes, but unfortunately, we don't even hear much of him. The last time I heard of his name, he was declaring public holiday. That looks like the simplest of tasks for a Minister of Internal Affairs to just announce public holidays. But there are very serious issues in that ministry. One jailbreak after the other, and you could not just anticipate the next, get the federal government to provide adequate security cordon around these prisons, especially when you have knowledge of the high-profile persons what security risk you have put in those facilities. I thought common sense will tell you that there should be special security arrangement for that kind of environment. Yes, in my neighborhood in Warri, yes, Okere is the place. We have a prisons there.
Okere Prison.
Yes, Okere Prisons.
College.
You know, yes, that's what they used to call it back in the day.
College.
And sometimes we just discover that you cannot use the major road around there. You have to move, find your way around. And when you have to tell you that there are some high-profile prisoners they just brought in, that's why you see soldiers all around. So why we don't have this everywhere is what beats one's imagination. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, Kuje attack security system has failed. That's the Senate president. Now, there's a story below the photograph. I'll just pick this out. Obi, that's Peter Obi, to unveil Baba Ahmed as running mate today. Yes, that will be the ticket if that what happens, as is being reported, because that Baba Ahmed is somebody who has very great profile. Young man, 44 years, and I'm sure if
he's older than 44. I think they're saying 48 or 51.
48, okay. But it's just a fresh, a breath of fresh air. And given what he has done over time, I'm sure, well, Nigerians, the electorate will say they have the third alternative. I don't want to call them a force yet. Perhaps Nigerians will decide whether they're force at the polls. But that would be...
Oh, yeah, of little faith.
No, I don't want to... You know, we've been hearing of third force over time. They just fizzle out. But this looks like for real. But I just want to call them the third alternative for now. For those of you, Nigerians out there, electorate, who are tired of 16 years of PDP, 8 years of APC, here you have an alternative. Peter Obi and Dati Baba Ahmed. So we'll see how it pans out, but at least there's something looking different and with some seriousness, because you know a number of persons threw themselves into the scene as a presidential candidate, and you check, nothing to really show that there's a foundation. But Peter Obi and this will be running mate. And of course, every pointer to that was that Doyin Okupe has vacated his position as placeholder running mate. Of course, he has performed his duty for that. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, yes, I look at the front page. Yes, I would say this is Delta-centric stories. Now, the lead story, Atiku rejects bid to substitute Wike for Okowa as VP pick. Yes, according to this report, the presidential candidate of the PDP has said, well, terms of settlement or appeasing anybody does not include dropping my running mate, Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa. Now, the other Delta story there, below the photograph, court disqualifies Oborewori as PDP Delta Guba candidate, recognizes a Delta PDP calls for calm, hints on appeal. Yes, Delta PDP will appeal, but you can be sure there's celebration, Rufai, in the home of Ogidigbo Igbo, and you know what I'm talking about.
Chief James and
yes, because this looks like a straight battle between him and his political ally, Okowa. He wanted David Edewe, one-time Commissioner of Finance in Delta State, two-time Commissioner of Finance, and of course he was also
Principal Secretary to
Private Secretary to President Umaru Yar'Adua. So now The matter is, well, of course, they are hinted that they will appeal. But for now, there will be celebration on the Edebi side of the PDP divide, headed by no less a person than James Ibori. Chief James Ibori, the one they call Ogidigbo Igbo. Yes, I'm sure there will be some brandy moving around this morning after that report with his political allies. But again, PDP, they should put their acts together. But for the Urobos, it is head or tail the way. Because even if PDP cannot put their house together, there is Ovi Omagige on the APC ticket. And if that does not work, there is Kenneth Baggy on the SDP ticket, yes, amongst others. So,
and way and the Robobank will be there.
Yes, head or tail. Yeah. So let's just move on to other stories. The Daily Sun newspaper, Sultan seeks divine intervention to end rising security challenge. Urges Nigerians to pray for the country. Yes, the Sultan, the head of the Muslim community in Nigeria. So you expect him to talk about divine intervention, although himself is a former military man. Was a brigadier general when he became Sultan. But I think he has left those military issues for those who are in charge, including the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the Guardian newspaper, NAFDAC joins research institutes strike. Food safety threatened. Agric, medical, water, soil institutes paralyzed. Absence of NAFDAC at port spells doom for food, drug security. Port congestion worsens, product approval delayed. Even in the best of times, you have delay in this approval. Now that NAFDAC workers are joining this strike, I hope the government, because all these are federal government agencies and institutes, so I hope they can resolve that quickly so that we don't jeopardize the health of Nigerians in a situation where food products will come into the country without proper checks. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, over 3,600 Nigerians miss this year's Hajj. Pilgrims board false knock-on over botched rescue mission. Jais Bank meets intending pilgrims, absorb selves. Man performs pilgrimage at Kanu Hajj camp. Our loss unquantifiable. Tour operators, NAPCON explains glitch. Well, that's what it is. Now, the Business Day newspaper, hospitals explore diseased donor kidney transplant as cases rise in Nigeria amid living donation. Ekuremadu, UK court says organ donor, not a minor, yes, he's 21 years old. Court was told yesterday, which has taken one of the big hurdle out of the way for Ekuremadu and wife in that trial in the UK. Now, the foreign newspapers quickly, expectedly, front pages of major newspapers across the world are also carrying the news of Boris Johnson's exit. The Times of London, Johnson throws in the towel. Conservative leader steps down. Critics urge him to quit immediately as prime minister. While the Financial Times, Johnson quits. Defiance to the end. Unapologetic British premier to stand down immediately. Tumultuous 3 years close with accusation that his party turned on him. Yes, that's the Financial Times I'm quoting. Now, the New York Times, Johnson to exit, ending a tenure full of scandal. But already, the search is on for the next prime minister. Yes, who succeeds Johnson? Of course, a number of names that are on the card, the crowded field, you will say, but one name seems to be ahead of others. Ben Wallace, the defense secretary, according to YouGov poll of Conservative Party members, of course, show that he is well ahead.
And does he want it?
Yes, but he has not said he doesn't want it because those who want to be counted out have said so. So Ben Wallace is in the lead, according to that YouGov poll. In any head-to-head matchups, Wallace is ahead. Of course, others behind him, not so closely, Penny Mordaunt, Rishi Sunak, and Liz Truss, the foreign secretary.
She always says she doesn't want it, but she clearly does because she now has a campaign team. So I guess she's changed her mind.
Everybody wants it.
Yes,
Liz Truss likes all these photo shoots. You know, I'm not a big fan of posturing on Instagram. Yeah. She is a huge fan. She's the Instagram.
Yes, I remember that her trip to Ukraine.
No, Russia. Where she was all dressed up like something out of Dr. Zhivago. I thought she looked ridiculous.
And she was posing all over the place.
She loves to pose. She's like the queen of the gram, doing it for the gram. I'm not a fan of that kind of behavior. Yeah. And there's another one she did I thought was so cringesome. When she had a scarf on her head and was in a tank like Margaret Thatcher and posted that on the gram. I was like, oh, pull yourself together, Liz Truss.
Clearly she's posturing for it, if you say
clearly,
so.
She's trying
but
to
Ben Wallace, as Prime
image.
Minister, at the time they have this war in Ukraine with the British.
It wouldn't be bad. He's been thrust into the limelight because of Ukraine. Before that, people didn't know him. And he's really competent. He's doing very well in that defense portfolio. But the initial reports were that he did not want it because he doesn't have a campaign team. But, you know, anything could change. Now that he's been... You know, what's that Shakespeare quote? Some are born great, some achieve greatness, some have greatness thrust upon them.
So Ben Wallace will just be that man.
But give it to him, he's a good steady hand. I mean, when you look at the negotiations leading up to the war in Ukraine, Ben Wallace has been a very forthright man. He was one of those people that led the first negotiation with General Shogun of Russia. In fact, I credit this to Ben Wallace. It was Ben Wallace that told them, you can't keep appeasing Putin, get ready for war. And a lot of people shut him down then and said, no, don't say that, we're trying to make peace. But he was correct. Putin finally did go to war with Ukraine when he wanted to. And Ben Wallace called it, you know, forthrightly as at that point in time. So it's a good hand. But a lot of people are also tipping Rishi Sunak. In fact, there's a conspiracy theory going on saying the reason why Sajid Javid and Rishi Sunak resigned was because they wanted to look good in the eyes of people to get themselves ready.
Of course,
John Cookson was saying this morning that Rishi Sunak has already gathered a team out of a hotel. They're strategizing. Rishi has got what it takes. Rishi has been managing the economy. Yeah. He looks good in the eye of people, but he too has his own problems. The problem with his wife being a billionaire and not paying taxes. But the British people might just forget that and give him a chance.
No, paying taxes elsewhere. Paying taxes elsewhere.
I mean, I don't know if the Conservative Party would just let him have
and a also the raised taxes, that's also another issue. They don't want another Gordon Brown.
They don't want another Gordon Brown.
So he's going to have to formulate a plan.
He's going to have to, you know, project himself as the leader of the party. There are other people in there. Obviously, we can't really look in the likes of the Priti Patels of this world.
Of course not.
I mean, it's not
she's a non-starter. But she has a team. She now has a team.
No, in that poll, she's somewhere down the line.
She's
somewhere down the line.
But they're going to go through the process. They're going to be whittled down. People will first come in. They'll have a first vote like they normally do it. Then they'll be whittled down. There's going to be another vote that's going to be down to the wire between the two top contenders. Yeah. And then it will be announced, you know, who becomes the leader of the party. Then the leader of the party obviously will be able to continue with the government because the Conservative Party have the majority. But earliest time, let's prepare for an elections in 2024 because the Labour Party, I know, definitely will start challenging the legitimacy of this government going from now. And Boris Johnson keeps saying that he has a mandate of 14 million people that voted for him in the last election.
Rest.
So, and he's got an 80-seat majority. So, elections 2024, let's say it's going to square up, but it's going to be a tough one for the Conservative Party.
But Sajid Javid, that's another issue with him. What you just said reminded me. He didn't even make it to the final round in 2019.
Yes, it didn't.
So I don't think he really has what it takes to clinch the post.
It didn't. And Rishi looks like, you know, sort of like the new face of the party. You know, but
he was the golden boy, but we don't know. Some of the allure has been lost. The luster has been lost a little bit with his recent scandals.
But one thing is certain: whoever is going to be the next Prime Minister of Britain, definitely will have to reflect the multiracial Britain. I'm talking culturally now, because Britain is a multicultural nation, it's a multiracial nation. And look at with the Mayor of London. If people could vote in a Muslim as the Mayor in London, it shows that those barriers have been broken. And when you have
Zahawi as well.
Zahawi as well.
He could be the first Muslim.
So Britain can be set up to have the first, you know, Muslim Prime Minister or Prime Minister of Asian origin.
But from that poll, those guys don't feature prominently.
No, that's a poll. Poll keeps
No, but it's a poll of conservative members.
But look at why I'm mentioning Zawahi. I think he is coming across a little bit bad because he accepted the chancellorship and then went and told Boris to step down. But that might not really matter. Why I mentioned him is John Major as well was a dark horse. Nobody knew him.
Nobody knew John.
And he was the chancellor for just a few weeks and then ended up leading the Conservative Party.
And he did that, but I mean, we know how that ended. He was roundly.
It ended badly because of the sleaze and the scandals, and then he now took it to an election. He shouldn't have done that. He should have stepped down.
So, and he was roundly beaten and all of that. But one thing is certain: the next elections in Britain might either be a pause to that 12-year reign by the Conservative Party, which has been a long time. I mean, the Conservative Party have not really enjoyed that long reign since the time of Margaret Thatcher. You know, they've not really, Margaret Thatcher and John Major, you know, I think Margaret Thatcher spent 10 years in there. She got in 79 and she left 1990. I think that was about 11 years.
Yeah.
And John Major did another 5-6 years, then he left in 97. So that 15-year interregnum or 16-year interregnum under Thatcher, this is the next time they've had it, because after John Major, then it was a new Labour with Tony Blair that went on and on and on till David Cameron came in. So maybe this might be what will punctuate that another long reign by the Conservative Party, but only time will tell. But one thing I can assure you for free is that some parties like the Lib Dem is really gaining a lot of traction with the people, and they're going to make strong showing in the next elections, whatever it may be in Britain. And the Labour Party too will make strong showing. But there's also that talk about Keir Starmer not living up to billion. He's got his own problems too, let's not forget.
Of course he does.
That the Durham police can anytime from now say, you know what,
and he's going to step down.
You should be sanctioned.
Because he promised to step down.
That he will be stepping down. But apart from Britain, I quickly want to move to a little bit of Delta politics.
Yes.
And you know, I'm sure the camp of Chief Justice Onanife will be excited and they will be like, oh, some sense of triumphalism. But let's not forget that case still goes down to the wire.
Of course.
I mean, it still has to go on and on and on. But it, you know, they'll say it's a good sign. But the Okowa too will be fighting back, you know, and his side on the other side.
But the danger is that I hope they will not drag this case to the extent that the election will hold with sheriff and the final judgment will disqualify him. In that case, the other contestants, I don't know whether what's the
Omeogage?
Yes. The Bayelsa case.
The Lion situation.
You know the Bayelsa case.
And that's why it's quite very dicey.
The Bayelsa situation.
It was almost the same scenario.
Yeah.
Education
certificate, falsification of certificate. So we have to look at this closely because it's almost the same scenario.
Terrible.
You know, but like you said, either ways, one thing is certain: the way Delta politics work, after it goes to the north of the state, then it comes back to
Delta Central, where it started from.
Where it started from. So either ways, you know, you've got Kenneth Gbagi in SDP, you've got Ovioma Agege in APC. Now you've got a PDP candidate. Either ways, it will go back to the Urhobo. So heads or tail. And then it just behoves on the Urhobo Progress Union who they're going to support, because when you look at it, the first endorsed that they were.
Ogboro is also there.
Ogboro is coming out this time?
No, he's there. I think it's the Labour Party. I can't remember his party now. But he's there with one of the parties.
Ogboro is a big force in Delta politics. I mean, I keep citing.
I think people are getting tired of his recurrent running for that position.
Because he's been running since 2003. I remember the first election in 2003. And I remember the election very well because the radio station I was working there in Warri, GFM, had something to do with that election and last word of results and the likes, and we had a debacle there. But
I know the story.
You remember the story? I worked in that radio station.
You told me that story.
There's an Ogboro fatigue in Urhobo land.
Oh, really?
But 2011, like I wanted to say, under an unknown party called DPP, he did poll close over 500,000 votes. You know, so some people said he might have even won the election. So, but let's look at it. Nobody should jubilate or celebrate now because it will still go down to. I'm sure the way I'm looking at this case is still going to go up and up. Maybe the appeal courts and probably a higher court than that. So,
oh dear.
So it's going to be on and on and on like that. And the Atiku, you know, and Okowa and Wike debacle, you know, I think the PDP should settle in their internal crisis. Yeah. And
there should be better ways to placate.
Because it's been going on and on. And also, in all fairness, I'm going to say this. Wike might feel pain and all of that, but the truth has to be said. Substituting Okowa after he's been picked as the candidate to run with that
That's
ticket.
not even an option.
No, it's not an
It's
option.
not an option.
It's not an option.
It will just destroy the party.
No,
even
it's not
further.
an option.
Whoever his supporters are, wicked supporters should take subsidizing Okowa out of the table. It's how they can work together with Okowa as a fact and come together and use his own, clout and everything to work for the party. But because I keep saying this talk about taking Okowa, it's not an option.
It's not.
Because it's going to divide the party even further.
No, in fact, it wouldn't show serious on the part of the candidate himself to be going back and forth.
Can you imagine? I think that's actually unheard of. I'm trying to remember who's done that. I think that would be unheard of.
It's
not done.
Because his presentation of Okowa, you know that it was a decision that was well thought out.
Yes.
Not one of those decisions out of the blues. No, he gave his reasons
and speaking of the president, I think one of the papers said the president was about to set up a security meeting.
Yes, they were having a National Security Council meeting.
Yeah, so I think we just got some news out of the ticker inbox here that I think the meeting might have started with the service chiefs and the like.
Yes.
As regards.
But they hold these meetings all the time.
People need to be sacked. This is the issue. You can't keep holding meetings, then doing nothing. This is clear incompetence, so people just need to be sacked.
And
that's the bottom line.
Do you remember that favorite quote? And you tell me who, because I always miss the person that said the quote, never ascribe for malice what you can explain with incompetence.
Hanlon's razor.
Hanlon's razor,
Yeah.
So never ascribe for malice what you can explain with incompetence. It's not that people don't like you.
Some people have clearly dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And I hope they're not taking the president for granted because they know he will not fire anybody.
He's averse to sacking people. This is the thing. But then he's just had a cabinet reshuffle. So maybe he might be in the mood to take it to its logical conclusion.
This was the first cabinet reshuffle.
In ages, yeah, but at least he's done it. Finally.
No, it was forced on him because ministers had to go and contest.
But he did it. He could have just replaced the 7 people. I'm trying to be optimistic. You're trying to burst my bubble. I'll not allow it.
I even looked at the changes,
not
the
on
movement.
a Friday. My bubble will not be burst. I'm hoping he takes it as far as possible and just sacks some people. We need mass sackings over this jailbreak.
I really wish that the president becomes Trumpian overnight and say you're fired. Some people today.
Right, yeah.
You're fired.
Well, we'll wait for that, the outcome of that security meeting, because if it's the normal talk, we are going to do our best. The Chief of Defense Staff will come out, speak Queen's English on security matters. That's not what we want. We want to see action.
Of course.
Bringing these terrorists to their knees.
Thank
for too long. We cannot continue on that.
And when you said action, I remember Dr. Abati.
Yes,
action.
Yes, that's what we say. Malabar. Malabar, action.
Thank you.
We miss you, Dr. Abati. We love you. We'll see you on Monday.